So a few of you Crayola flavor connoisseurs in the swing states of Michigan and Wisconsin who voted for Donald Trump for cheaper gas and eggs might have a bigger problem on your hand than some $5 butt nuggets come January. Because if Trump decides to institute those 25% tariffs on day one that you decided to Google, after the election, your gas and eggs, along with, every other fucking thing you buy, is going to get a hell of a lot more expensive. But everybody with a partially functioning brain already knew that. And we've all been speculating how Canada and other countries might retaliate, and one of the things we figured was y'all probably lose some of your jobs when they stop importing or tariff the stuff that we export to them. Kind of like how all the farmers started going bankrupt and had to be bailed out the last time we tried this whole tariff thing. And Canada is already talking about a number of ways they're gonna tell us to go fuck ourselves, bud. And some of them aren't surprising, barring imports of American alcohol, and barring exports of up to 34 critical and essential minerals we need for all kinds of advanced manufacturing, including defense. Because we're dumb and we forgot that Canada's a big country with a lot of shit we need and want. But if you're a student of history, you know that, Canadians are nice, but only to an extent. And when they decide to stop being nice, you do not want to be on the receiving side of that, because they get fucking creative when it comes to fuck around and find out. And if you don't believe me, pretty much the only reason we even have the Geneva Convention is because of Canada. And not because they were like, oh, other people were doing some mean stuff and we should help humanity. Nah, it's because they basically invented the motto, it's never a war crime the first time. And I don't know if it's all that pent-up niceness that just gets them to a point where they're like, I wish a motherfucker would. But when a motherfucker does, you don't want to be that motherfucker. One of the most famous examples is during trench warfare in World War I. They were in situations where soldiers would sit for months on end facing each other in the most horrific conditions, gaining absolutely no ground. And occasionally during this war, realizing that enemy and ally alike were all suffering through the same shitty conditions, they would start to get empathy for their enemies. Like the Christmas truce, where enemy soldiers crawled up out of their trenches on Christmas Day and played soccer and exchanged gifts in no man's land, acts of kindness, goodwill, and humanity would occasionally break through the fogs of war. Unless you were Canadian. Now the Canucks saw that and immediately went, light bulb. And they went and started throwing cans of corned beef over to the Germans, who at this point were starving because the war had dragged on so long and resources were running low. And when the Germans thanked them and asked for more, they responded by throwing them hand grenades. They would take no prisoners, they would shoot the wounded, they were not above doing anything and everything they could do to destroy their foes in the most creative and cruel way possible. So when Donald Trump started shit-talking and deciding that he wanted to fuck around with our friends above the 49th, we should have known that when he says trade war, they hear war, and we should have expected some creativity. Thankfully, the Premier of Ontario was kind enough to give us just a little bit of a warning of the levels of find out they're willing to go to if we fuck around. Because he literally just came out and he's like, try it. We'll put your lights out. Literally. You see, 1.5 million homes in the United States get their power from Ontario alone. 90% of America's electricity imports come from Canada. And you know what Canada can do with that electricity? They can just say, nope. Sorry, bud, no electricity for you. And that would make electricity prices skyrocket for a number of Americans. Probably me, even though I get my power from North Dakota. I'm fairly close to their power grid. And our power would probably have to compensate for their lack of power. Yeah, all of this is gonna suck for all of us, but I'm not gonna let the I told you so go. But if Canada decides to cut the cable, that's probably going to result in power outages and rolling blackouts, because I don't think the United States has enough infrastructure or power reserves to make up the difference. If Donald Trump actually imposes these tariffs on day one, like he says he's going to do, and they cut our power on day one, like they say they're going to do, you might want to check your calendars, because day one is in fucking January. And the states that'll be most affected are Michigan, Wisconsin, and parts of New York. We all know that Michigan and Wisconsin are swing states that swing the wrong way. But hey, maybe a little conversion therapy compliments of the Canadians will help them make better decisions in the future. But in the meantime, I hope y'all are stocking up on blankets and candles and those flashlights you gotta jerk off to charge, because y'all just might need them.